This is as far as I can take you. According to our information, there are quite a few security cameras set up on the premises. Still, don't worry. I've got a bunch of youngsters ready and waiting to slip past them and go in. We'll be monitoring the inside with a one-way mic, so if you do give a loud scream, we'll know right away.
We'll persuade her for sure, so please be ready for her to turn herself in.
In both her eyes was determination. It was the only method available to us for lightening the sins of our good friend. Be plenty careful here. You probably don't believe it right now, but I don't want you two being sacrificed if at all possible. You're right about that. With that rude response, we left the car. The clinging. I love that bit where it's like, it has that really nice kind of melancholic feel. That's obvious because it must be played in F minor. So that's a minor key, so it has that kind of more melancholic sound. If it was a major key, it would sound a bit more upbeat. The clinging humidity and voices of the cicadas greet us. There's another track that's on the official soundtrack for the Ansarats. That was actually a soundtrack specifically made for the novels rather than being wherever they found these tracks from. That kind of uses a similar thing where it's like has that kind of slow movement between notes where it's like I like how piano pieces do that, where they kind of briefly slow down, and I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense, but you know, it's really nice when they do that. It's like not fast, it slows down briefly, and then once it hits the next two notes, it has that more impactful feel. It's kind of like, I guess, what people mean when they say about like playing with feeling, emotion. It's like you're really focusing on like how will you get these notes to play out in such a way that really works emotionally wise for the piece, rather than simply just like going with whatever speed, just keeping it consistent. You're slowing it down briefly and then going like this. It's slowing down. I like that bit as well. It's like close to a higher pitch. Ow! But I'm kind of rambling again. The clinging humidity and voice of the cicadas greet us. That bit right there, I like it. I'd never have expected this would be happening today. I probably won't, Keiichi, because I sense an interruption at some point, so we're not going to be able to get through the whole thing, so I'm sensing I'm going to have to make a cliffhanger at some point.
Let's go, Keiichi-kun.
Rena took the lead and began to walk. Down the road I'd never been. Rena, you've been to Mion's house before, right?
Yeah, a few times. It's a really big house. You could fit a mountain inside the backyard too. You can pick mushrooms and stuff, though there are fences everywhere.
Big enough to fit a mountain. That was amazing. One of the three families controlling Hinami's hour and had family on Watanagashi clan. Perhaps there was something to be said about its magnitude. The path continued onward, level and uneventful. There were metal fences along its edges, and beyond that, them were woods with trees growing thickly. The fences were high, the tops of them bent inwards, sticking out like sharp spears. Plus there was dangerous-looking barbed wire wrapping. No one could look at them and not feel intimidated. In addition, there were signboards hung up here and there along the fence. Private property of the Watanagashi family, entrance forbidden. Beware of venomous snakes. Active security cameras. Intruders will be charged an entry fee of... How much yen would that be right out the house? About 1 million yen? 1 million yen, maybe? This forest, or should I say mountain, is this all their yard?
It's more like their domain. As you can see, it's private property, but nobody maintains it. The forest isn't really the kind that you can go hiking in.
You could say that again. It really did feel like a neglected savage woodland. It was dark and damp, and certainly not a forest that made you want to go for a nice walk. Maybe that's just what happens when a landowner has too much land. I Like Ooishi-san said, there were security cameras hung up all over the place. Though they had been weathered by wind and rain, it cast in doubt as to whether they were even functional. I wonder if Mion is watching us as we come to her.
I don't think she is. The only people living in Michan's house are generally her and her grandma, after all. There's nobody to watch the cameras.
What a useless security system.
Well, Michan's father seems like a pretty tough person to get along with. So whenever everyone in the family is getting together, the cameras are apparently working properly.
That's right. Mion's father was a big shot yakuza, wasn't he? Rena smoothly danced around the answer as she reacts. At last, a huge gate as big as I'd imagined appeared. Was she living by herself with her grandmother in a house with such a grand gateway? I wonder if she's here. Beep! The old buzzer made a dull sound. Was it cut off in the middle and not getting to the house? We waited long enough without a response for me to start thinking like that. Wherever we finally heard footsteps walking through gravel on the other side of the gate. Used to wonder how big the freaking place must be inside. It's like, oh, I have to walk half a mile just to get to the damn door. I nervously balled my hands, my palms now sweating into fists. There was the clang of a bolt being released and the gate opened slightly. The person peeking out of the gap was none other than Mion. Well, this is unusual. Only two go to school. Mion didn't seem all that surprised at visitors arriving in the morning, which was a normal time. In fact, she almost seemed relaxed, as if she knew we were coming beforehand.
We stayed home today.
Keiichi is one thing, but you too, Rena. You two are such troublemakers. Mion smiled lightly in the way that the Mion we knew always did. Well, let's not just stand here. Come on in. She gestures for us to follow her. I hesitated for a moment, looking at Rena.
Let's go.
Rena smiled cheerfully as if she were passing through the gate of her good friend's house, and then did just that. I rallied myself and then go through the gate too. On the other side, it hadn't been maintained very well, but it was clear that the lot was magnificently wide. Holy shit, look at this land, man. It wasn't quite what you'd think of when you hear mansion, but it was very clearly a vast place. Was this the first time you've been here, Keiichi? Yeah. This house is enormous. See, thatched roofs aren't in fashion anymore. This place could be a tourist attraction. I want to rebuild it using totally average and boring reinforced concrete soon. Mion dryly smiled as she said that, and closed the gate and relocked the heavy bolts. Don't worry about it, things have been dangerous lately. Gotta do at least this much during the daytime. Yeah, you're right. Maybe it was my imagination, but I thought I saw the hint of a shadow in her smile. Well then, good sir and madam, I shall show you inside. Please come this way. Mion bowed to us like a worker at a high-class hotel. She put it on her heel and began to walk. Rena gripped my stiffening arm lightly.
Keiichi-kun, you're too tense. We came to see Michan, remember? You don't need to be that nervous.
That's right. When I get nervous, I tend to let everything show on my face. I'll stop tensing up. Even if something were to happen, there were two of us. Ooishi-san's subordinates were waiting outside the gate for us too. There was nothing to worry about. After thinking about it that much, I realized my nervousness was already gone and laughed at myself. What's this, Mion? What's with this stone on top of the newspapers? It's in the way. There was a pile of newspapers on the floor of the entrance, and there was a large rock on top of them. I didn't understand why something like that was here. Rena noticed me looking at it questionably and giggled. Rena, do you know? What is this? Some kind of good luck charm? If you don't really know, feel free to move it out of the way and put your shoes there.
Keiichi-kun, there's a nest of swallows right above that stone.
Huh? Oh, you're right. This house is for people, but swallows still come in without permission to make nests. It must be like a tradition for them. Whenever spring comes, they always make a nest here. It's kind of annoying, though.
In other words, it's a sign to not take off your shoes here because swallow poop could end up in them.
Comic relief all of a sudden. I couldn't help but laugh at the silly condiment, and my laughter naturally spread to the other two. A very long time ago, the Sonbeck family apparently cultivated silkworms. Their ancestors get all worked up over exterminating the swallows. When you think of it that way, maybe this is just dessert. Anyway, come on in. Well, that relieves some of the tension, I suppose. The inside of the house wasn't very bright at all, although my commentary does that in this part, doesn't it? It's just like, take the plot a bit more serious, man, give it a bit more. It was very bright at all. It was dimly lit, in fact, but mysteriously I could still feel an elegance to the place. It is pretty dimly lit, isn't it? Mion seemed to want a more modern building, but traditional houses like this aren't bad either. Except for, lighting issues, I suppose, but you could probably fix that. You're kidding, right? There's a terrible draft and the winters are freezing. Don't go making my house into property of cultural significance again in the way of renovation, Scotty. What I want most is a house like yours, Keiichi. I'm pretty jealous of it. Seems like it would be warm in the winter. Oh, but snowfall seems like it would be a problem. Snowfall is a problem? Does Higurashi get that much snow? All latitude is south of Kanto, isn't it? Isn't this region warm? Just give it more vague hints of location. That reminds me, I actually quite like that now I think about it. Remember when I said the village that Higurashi's location is based on? And I also mentioned this one village in Karano Shoujo 2 is also based on the same location. And I kind of like it because in Karano Shoujo it's in winter and there is a shit ton of snow. So it's kind of like the opposite there. So like Higurashi, you got it in summer. Karano Shoujo, you got it in Karano Shoujo 2, you got it in winter. But they're two entirely different stories, but use the same village as a base of inspiration. Except with Higurashi, they pretty much take pictures from the actual village and posterize it by the looks of it. While Karano Shoujo 2 doesn't do that, it does base itself on it. So that's kind of neat.
You don't know Keiichi-kun. Enemy's hours in an area that gets heavy snowfall. When we get a lot, everyone gets buried. Sometimes you can't even get out of your house. Sometimes the car gets totally buried too and you can't find where it is. I wasn't aware of that. Was that bad of a place in the winter? Come to think of it, my dad, he said something like, this place got plenty of snow so we could have fun building igloos. Still, your front door getting buried, not being able to find your car, that's way too much snow. You remember from geography class, right? The western side of Japan gets cold winds from Asia. We're different from those softies protected by the mountains, nice and warm by the Pacific Ocean. I'm certainly okay with being a softie and nice and warm. I hate the colds. We'll have to have a training camp to get Keiichi used to the cold this winter then. No way, there's no way that's happening. I hate the cold and I hate training camps too, and I hate that and even more put together. Mion laughed more uproariously than she ever had, and told us she'd bring out some tea and left her seat for the moment. It's a shame, really. I don't think we get to see Higurashi in winter at all in any of the arcs, I don't think. Still, there's a lot of fun things to do in the winter. I bet our club will be a blast then.
Club continuing activities for the winter sounds totally horrible. Like swimming in the cold or marching in the snow. When did we turn into Mount Redhorn?
There are definitely a lot of tough punishment games for the winter season.
Oh man, I could imagine, Jesus Christ. Just like, oh, the punishments, and you almost died from hypothermia, but hey, punishments for losing again.
Sometimes she made us have a real carnival in the schoolyard while snow was falling.
I see the terror of our club cared not for the season, or for anyone's health for that matter. The victor would be decided by who could best adapt to the winter-only events.
We do snowball fights and shaped ice skating contests and treasure hunts in the snow.
Wait, why is everything outside? Why can't we play tabletop games in a nice, warm room while it's snowing?
Well, Keiichi-kun, if you're saying things like that, then you're gonna lose a lot this winter. We'll have lots of punishment games and Rena won't lose. Oh.
Don't give me that howl! I settled things here a cross chop to the head.
You're sure having fun. Our walls aren't very thick, so be careful not to go flying through any, okay?
The paper sliding door opened and Mion returned with a pot and a complete tea set. So it was kind of like, now that I think about it, like, Mion was just like saying about that, it's like, oh, how's they be all fancy and traditional, but shit in winter? I mean, stuff like that, it made me think. It's like, I like the look of architecture like that. It looks really nice, but I always find it like, isn't it kind of inconvenient? It wouldn't really do well in certain situations. Like winter, for example, there would be a bitch, wouldn't it? And it's like describing as kind of like paper, kind of thin, really, isn't it? It's like, I don't know. It just seems weird. It looks nice, but it seems like it would have a lot of drawbacks or stuff like that. You want some sesame seeds on your rice? Sorry we don't have much. I said that in a sarcastic way there. You want sesame seeds on your rice? Sorry we don't have much in the way of bean paste or all the good stuff. Wait, no, that was probably... Wait. That was probably me on that. You want sesame seeds on your rice? Sorry, we don't have much in the way of bean paste or all the good stuff. It's okay. We didn't really come here to drink tea anyway. And with those words, the smile disappeared from Rena's face. Ah, she did it. That was Rena then.
It's okay.
I should have known by the fact that she repeats herself a lot.
We didn't really come here to drink tea anyway.
That one careless statement reminded us of what we hadn't nearly been able to forget. I'd wanted to enjoy this peaceful time for a little longer, but we put an end to that with those honestly careless words. When she noticed a smile disappear from Rena's expression, Mion too changed hers. It was as if the cheerful air that was like a warm spring day until a moment ago had slipped through the cracks in the paper door. See, the description, paper door. It sounds like it'd be the worst door ever. It's like, oh, but it looks nice, but it's completely shit. You could just elbow it and it'd just go probably. It was like a warm spring day until a moment ago had slipped through the cracks in the bed, and all the others did. There was no point in regretting it now. We did not come here today to chat and enjoy ourselves. Mion silently poured the tea. During that time, both Rena and I sat kneeling without uttering a word. Here you are. Drink up. We couldn't even mutter a word of acknowledgement at those natural words of courtesy. There's no poison in here or anything. You just trust me that much. That's upsetting. Mion gave a bitter smile at that and let her shoulders droop. We all remained silent. We remained silent, hoping that someone else would speak up first. That was, however, the one thing we didn't want to do, and so we sat for a long time. At last, Mion smiled scornfully and opened her mouth to speak. Hey now, Keiichi and Rena. You're the guests. Didn't you come here for something? If you don't speak at first, this old man won't know what to do. Rena and I exchanged glances, and we both resigned ourselves. Rena opened her mouth to speak first, so I stopped her.
Keiichi-kun.
It's okay. I needed to come here. Let me talk first.
Okay, I understand.
What would Keiichi have to tell me? Please give me your daughter's hand in marriage, maybe. Can't do that. My little Rena and Keiichi aren't meant for each other. Go wash your face with bits of soup and try again later.
You know, tense atmosphere, but that's Mion just joking there. Just makes me think of freaking fighting games, like old fighting games, where like they insult them at the end. Or maybe even that's taken directly from one. I wouldn't be surprised. There's some cheesy ones in there, isn't it? That defeated in a fight against Mion, that would be her kind of like winning insult against her opponent. Be like, go wash your face with miso soup and try again later. But anyways, afterwards, I thought her mean remarks were Mion's own way of showing consideration. Mion had said those mean things in a totally normal voice, and it drained the tension from my shoulders. Mion, first, I have something to apologize for. You do? What for? Mion pretended that she didn't know what I was talking about, but I clearly gotten my point across. Well, on the night of the Watanagashi, the ritual storehouse found a shrine. I went in there. I could see Mion's expression immediately become harder. I knew it was somewhere I wasn't supposed to go, but it was just supposed to be a little bit of exploration. We didn't mean anything by it. Even so, I still shouldn't have done it. So, I apologize. Sorry. To display my deepest sincerity, I pressed my forehead to the table. I'd meant it as my way of frustrating myself. I figured it wouldn't feel sincere enough if I raised my head right away, so I left it down on the table for a while. Mion didn't say anything. With my face down, I couldn't tell what sort of expression Mion had. Only the voices of the cicadas filled the room. Mixed with them, I could hear the sound of the clock ticking. That was all. When I started to struggle to breathe from having my head down for so long, Mion told me to stop. You got me there. I didn't expect you to pitch it to me straight. You've got me on the ropes. I looked up to see that Mion's face was calm, but she was smiling faintly. You understand that even though it was only a casual exploration for you, Keiichi, that there are a lot of people who think it's no laughing matter. That's okay. There's an old saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Speed is decent, then. Maybe too late, but I apologize. What I did was wrong. Please forgive me. I could feel pitiful tears welling up within me. If I had done this sooner, maybe nothing terrible would have happened. It's okay. You know what you did was bad, then that's enough, right? Mion spoke like it was someone else's problem, and I wasn't happy about it.
Hey-chan, Keiichi comes apologizing seriously. Maybe you should respond seriously as well.
I am being serious, though. While I not look serious to you, Rena.
You don't.
Rena was giving her tit for tat, and so the room's atmosphere quickly began to grow sharper. She was right, even though I came here to speak from the heart like this. It's felt like she hasn't been taken seriously. Obviously, Rena isn't fond of that.
Keiichi-kun, you can get up now. Let's tell her everything. It looks like what Mi-chan wants too.
I had known it would turn out like this from the beginning. Hadn't I come here prepared for that? I mustered my willpower and bit my lip. Mion, you called Rika-chan and Satoko the day before last, right? I don't remember doing so. If you have a reason to think so, could you let me hear it? It was evening before dinner time. Rika-chan should have come here, bringing a big bowl of soy sauce to have you share some with her. Mion was trying to keep from showing any reaction. Though it's not quite an interaction about rapture next, so not cliffhanger time. I'm just waiting for food, and I know how that goes. Like as soon as food arrives, gosh, stop the recording. But we can continue a bit. But I didn't miss her eyelid watching just a little bit. Why do you think that?
It's not hard to understand. Mi-chan, you saw it too, didn't you? Rika-chan's room.
Mion put a finger on her forehead and acted like she was thinking.
There was still tofu, but no soy sauce. Was the big bottle of soy sauce that should have been under the sink was nowhere to be found.
What? Is that why she would have come here? Mion, drop the act. You wrote it yourself on a notice, didn't you? That you'd share your soy sauce. Mion scratched her head. Maybe that was Rena saying that. I heard her ever so faintly click her tongue. It was as though we found out she'd purposely given too little change to her servant. That's all I could feel from her.
And me-chan, you, Rika-chan, you hit her.
Oh, I see what she was about to say a race there, wasn't she? Rena hesitated for a moment. I could tell that she didn't want to use the word erase, and that she was struggling to find another word.
It was really supposed to be the end, wasn't it? For you, anyway.
What are you talking about?
You didn't foresee that Rika-chan would tell Satoko-chan and that she was going to your house, did you, me-chan? Then Satoko-chan called. Might Rika be imposing on you? Yeah, probably just like that.
You sound just like her.
Me-chan, you're in a bit of a bind then, because someone knew that Rika-chan had come here. So you decided to lure Satoko-chan here too.
Lure her out? Like how, I wonder? Mion prodded Rena on as if trying to get to the good part of an interesting story. I, however, knew I'd been watching Mion change the whole time. She was restlessly twirling her fingers. She had clearly lost her calm. Of course, it was really a slight thing, and only I, who had been watching her this whole time, would have known. Mion was panicking. What Rena was saying must have been the bullseye.
It probably went like this. Toko, I actually made too much dinner today, so why not come over and eat? Rika-chan came earlier and already ate some. Something like that.
Scratch. Mion's nails dug into her knee. There's no recordings of the phone conversation or anything. How do you know that much?
I know it because the dinner that Satoko-chan made for the two of them was plastic wrapped in their refrigerator and hadn't been touched.
For a few moments, Mion's face was frozen in utter amazement. She looked like she couldn't believe that this person in front of her was Rena. We've just had to go on. How did you even guess what we said over the phone?
It's a long explanation, so I'll get to the point. The contents of that refrigerator provided a vivid account of what you said over the phone when you let her out.
Mion's jaw remained on the floor. That was the only way I could describe her face. That's... I had no idea I had such an incredible detective right next to me the whole time. I can't believe you'd figured out everything, down to the phone conversation, just from what was inside the fridge. You've got me there. You've got me. You've got me. As if a dam had burst, Mion convulsed into laughter. Her laughter, though, definitely didn't make us want to laugh as well. Mion grew tired of her dumb laughter, heaved a big sigh, and scratched her head. It almost seemed like Mion had lost a detective punishment game to the club or something, and her punishment had been decided. Oh, how fun that would have been if it were true.
Incredible detective. Chan, you're the one who guessed that what Ooishi-san told us. He called me an incredible detective too.
As soon as she heard Ooishi-san's name, Mion's eyes began to display panic more clearly, so that anyone would be able to tell.
Mion, police have suspected you for a long time now. Ooishi-san's officers have had their house under observation so that they could break in at any time.
Mion attempted to feign calm, but it looked like she was having a hard time with that. Part of her couldn't believe that the police had her surrounded, and she closely examined Rena's facial expression. Wherever she could detect a hint of falsehood, Finally, Mion seemed to accept the fact that the police were encircling the house.
Was the mayor Mei-chan too?
Tomitaki-san and Taken-san, you as well. Mion didn't answer our rapid-fire questions. I could clearly see impatience in her eyes, which were still feigning calm. That face, have we seen that expression before? That is a totally different... I mean, we've seen her... That's like a really, really kind of calm kind of smile. Like a kind of, you got me kind of smile. I don't think we've ever seen that before. At last, Mion, who had been sitting there lazily, readjusted her cushion and sat herself upright. At that moment, the atmosphere in the room changed completely. Mion's expression, noticeably, also changed. The impatience and the wonderment in her expression disappeared, and she became so solemn you would think she was about to conduct a tea ceremony. I could sense it. It was now, in this moment. Mion had ceased to be Mion, but had changed into Mion Sonozaki, the current heir to the Sonozaki house. That solemn atmosphere about her was clearly abnormal, and was entirely different from what that of the Mion that I knew. Suppose it really is an expression we hadn't seen on her face before then. Now I could believe it. Now I could believe that she was the young leader who commanded the entire Sonozaki clan. Mion quietly placed both her hands on the tatami mat and gave a beautifully elegant bow, as if this really were a tea ceremony, and named herself. We meet for the first time. I'm the current heir to the Sonozaki house. My name is Mion. Mion's movements were so elegant they could cut, and we couldn't even answer her. All Rena and I could do was watch baffled at her actions, which we could never imagine a normal her doing. I'd like to welcome you to the Sonozaki main house today. I will greet you all in place of our leader Oryu. It seems as though you have various things you would like to ask. If I can be of any assistance, then I would like to answer without concealing anything. What? What did Mion just say? Mion said she would answer anything we asked. There was a strong light of resolve in her eyes. It's really alright if we ask anything, then? I shall tell you everything I know. That is why you have come here after all. Ren and I exchanged glances. There was a mountain of things we wanted to ask Mion. Wherever we hesitated for a moment on what we should ask first. The first question Rena gave was extremely abstract, but it was the question everyone wanted to know right now.
Why would you do this?
That was what I wanted to ask as well. Why would you do this? That didn't only go for Rika-chan Satoko. It went for the mayor, Takano-san, and Tomitaki-san as well. No, even further back for all the incidents that have been occurring every year. For a little while, Mion couldn't respond. Right when we realized that the question was too vague and tried to put it into more considerate terms, concrete I mean, she finally opened her mouth to speak. To answer that question will take some time. If that is acceptable, however, then I would by all means like you to hear it. She spoke clearly. She spoke with a clarity that a grandmother might use when telling a story from a long time ago. Do you know what Higurashi village used to be called Onikafuchi village? No, I mean, did you do that here? Rena nodded lightly, then shot me a glance asking me if I did. Oh god, it's this track. The obnoxiously loud one. You know, like I said, the soundtrack's on YouTube, and I remember reading the comments on this one. And like, some people hate it because of like that distortion kind of effect. But one comment kind of like put it in a way that actually makes it sound kind of fitting is that it's like a corruption. Because it sounds so distorted that it fits the corruption of the mood when shit goes down in Higurashi. And yeah, that kind of does feel fitting, but it makes it hard to comment over because it's so loud. Rena nodded lightly, then shot me a glance and asked me if I did. I mean, listen to that. What instrument is that? It's like this instrumental piece doesn't know what it wants to be, which I suppose you could see as fitting, because it's like it's all over the place and chaotic, while also maintaining a lovely melody underneath it all. But it's just so loud and chaotic. Which, like I said, I guess it could fit the mood, but man, it's hard to comment over it because of the volume. And not lightly, and then shot me a glance asking me if I did. I returned her nod. Nimizawa was once called Onagafuchi Village. Yes, I heard all about it that night from Takuma-san in the ritual storehouse. They firmly believed that demon blood ran through their veins and cut off all contact with the outside world. They were worshipped by those in the villages at the foot of the mountains and treated like transcendents, those capable of magic. That's right. Our ancestors in Onagafuchi Village were proud transcendents descended from the demons. That has definitely got to be a key change, man. And not just any key change, that's got to be a far key change. Like the type of key change that's like a couple of tones away, because that is so very distinctly different. Why am I trying to do freaking harmonies on that now? That first one, though, what was up with that? That sounded proper opera sounding. That's right, our ancestors on a Onagafuchi village were proud transcendents descended from the demons. Those in the villages at the foot of the mountains worshipping on them. Nevertheless, that all decayed with the end of the Tokugawa era. The black ships arrived, the era of the samurai ended, the era of national isolation ended, and the tradition of worshipping on a Onagafuchi village quickly disappeared. Those things that linger from the past are all being attested. What? Just because it's like, okay, the national isolation has ended. So it's just like, oh, does that mean we abandon everything? Like, no. It just means now it's like you're more open with the rest of the world, right? I don't know. Those things that linger from the past are all sweet. The kind of buried king. It's just so bizarre, this track. The Meiji era began the name of Onagafuchi village, with long history, was forcibly changed to Hinamizawa village. I've heard the Meiji government strongly wished to erase the old customs. The abolition of feudal domains and the establishment of professions, an era had begun, seeing Japan's being up those stairs out with the years to try and reach the same level of the rest of the world. Gotta hand it to them though, they certainly they freaking went way up those steps. Like World War II though is kind of like that's a bad one, that. But you know, after that, it's just like pretty much that kind of like destroyed them, like as well, because of like the events of World War II. A lot of countries were kind of like in the shit from that, but so just think of how Japan is today. They're like way up on that staircase, like of the world there now, aren't they? Fair play. This like went from like isolating themselves from like most of the world for so long, and now they're kind of like really just kind of like a, I don't know. Anyways, all things in the Western style were to be extolled, while all old traditional things were to be scorned. Was that an actual thing that happened? If so, then maybe that explains it, actually. For the bitterness of it, like some people in Japan have for the West. Just like, you ruined the traditions, you fucking assholes! I don't know. I don't really know much about it, to be honest. That was the sort of very was. Our ancestors in Watanagashi village, the proud transcendence descended from the demons. Watanagashi village disappeared in a flash. Oh wait, our ancestors in Watanagashi village were proud transcendents descended from the demons. Watanagashi village disappeared in a flash. That should be there as well, you know. At last, Japan, provoked by the great European... I might as well just read it all in Mion's voice, just assuming she's speaking the whole time. At last, Japan, provoked by the great European powers colonizing countries in Asia one by one, began a policy to increase its wealth and military power so that it could stand as a global power in its own right. Conscription began and they one war after war, the first Sino-Japanese War and the Russo-Japanese War, until the Pacific War broke out. Was that the name, the Pacific War, is that the name for the conflict between America and Japan in World War II? I think it is. They recklessly climbed the staircase towards modernization. At the time, Watanagashi village had already lost its independent ability. The villagers once worshipped as transcendents were now on the receiving end of inhuman treatment. The sacred Watanagashi village had been grounded and labeled an isolated village of those afflicted with incurable diseases, being a shadow of its former self, and stood on the principle of a narrow hardship. Thus began harsh days where one would suffer unreasonable discrimination just because people knew one was from Watanagashi. The children in the village at the foot of the mountain were taught not to go near Hinamizawa because filthy germs were rampant there. Children who had come into contact with children in Hinamizawa would cry and wail as their parents purified the spot they were touched by rubbing salt on it. One of the adults said to the children that if you get lost in Hinamizawa, you will be kidnapped by demons, cut up into pieces and devoured. Wow, that's morbid as fuck. Never ever go near the tagline village of the man-eating demons. That's what he taught them. Miller said that during a famine long ago, the people of Hinamizawa gathered up all the corpses discarded into dry riverbeds and cooked and ate them in order to survive. Groundless stories, but said in such seriousness. Can't tell if interruption or not. Baseless slander added to baseless slander, making Watanagashi village's historically accurate, thrilling history all the more believable. Jesus Christ, this music's just so loud. Such a change of undue discrimination was a manifestation of the people's anxiety towards the uncertain times. Of course, the story didn't end only with the perspective of children. If anyone found out you were from Watanagashi, you would be turned down from any job you applied for. People would even go back on engagements and marriage proposals. As for the marriages where one partner had lied about it, as soon as the truth got out, they were made to divorce. It even caused trials. It would appeal that where one came from wasn't an important enough reason to divorce. It would, however, lose their case. Lying about one's birthplace apparently constitutes a heavy act of misrepresentation in marriage. That's terrible. I've heard about such discrimination towards those in small villages in civics class. Just because others knew you were from a tiny hamlet, you should be subjected to every societal disadvantage that there was a modern form of bullying. Remember that interruption I was waiting for? Finally, my food has arrived, and I had to be in the middle of such a scene, though I only memorized that because it was going to be on a test one day. I recalled being suspicious about it and unable to believe such discrimination occurred in modern Japan. What, even, well, this is the 80s, does that apply nowadays as well? All based on just being born in a small, isolated village? That sounds shit to me. Well, I suppose I can't say that they weren't asking for it. Our ancestors were proud of demon blood flowing through them. lived their lives close and barren, spoiling those at the foot of the mountain, after all. They struck fear into the villages down there with their mystique and demanded gifts of dread and tribute. And that Mion smiled for the first time, albeit himself, mockery. During the Pacific War, despite the slogans that all the country was acting as one, those from Hinamisao continued to suffer all manner of discrimination. Or was it just specifically for this work of fiction here? I don't know! There were too many ways to count. They would send their husbands and sons to war, and the women on the home front would suffer greatly too. My grandma remembers it well. She remembers it being a difficult time. Even that bitterly long war, however, finally ended in 1945. Hinamisao had lost many male hands, but at last their fathers and husbands and sons returned to them. Of course, there were also many who didn't come back. Nevertheless, for those in Hinamisao who were at their limits, barely able to maintain the village without the men, their return was a very happy thing. The author's new HQ said the works on drastically improving mindsets and strove for the abolition of unfair discrimination. They could feel day breaking on the dismal night that was the previous era. Hinamisao was on the verge of turning into a ghost town. Those in the village started to say that they should rebuild it once again and got to work, trying to make the village even a little more splendid. During that time, someone appeared who built up a fortune through a vast number of dealings in the black market. That was Mion's grandfather. Right, now this must be Keiichi's fourth son. That was Mion's grandfather, the husband of the elderly current family head leader, Sohei Sonozaki. Sohei said that he managed food houses in Harbin after being dispatched to the Chinese mainland. When it was time to pull out, he conspired with his superiors and comrades and stole a great deal of the army's canned goods. He hid them somewhere in the Seto Inland Sea and sold them widely at a high price on the black market, thus earning a fortune. Oh yeah, I remember. Like in Japan and much other countries, I imagine, that were greatly, really badly affected by World War II by the end of it. Like food and stuff like our resources become a bit more scarce as a result, isn't it? So he didn't spend that fortune for his own pleasure either. He entrusted the entire amount to his wife, the head of the Sonozaki house. Let's revive this ruined village. All who live here are our family, and this fortune is our collective property. So he proclaimed to my grandmother, the current head of the family. That vast fortune was a huge reason why Hinamisao was revitalized after the war. I see. That Hinamisao came back to life, and that's how the Sonozaki family had established its current prosperity. Of course, there were many people who begrudged the money coming from the black market, but the villagers no longer minded it. They succeeded at one business venture after another. Those who had succeeded freely supported those who followed them. The giant family of Hinamisao, tied together with strong bonds, kept on expanding its influence. The Sonozaki family, the center of everything, will be extolled for a long time as the minds behind Hinamisao's revitalization.
The person at the middle of all of it was your Nana, Mi-chan. That's amazing. What a great success.
Mion looked like she was honestly happy Rena and praised her. However, around 1955, the wind started blowing in the other direction again, because of the canned flesh incidents. I've heard about this in both this and Katagura, but I have not looked up about it, and honestly, it's understandable. That does not sound like something pleasant. But I've heard a reference in Katagura as well. But it's with that one, it's more reasonable because it's takes place in post World War II Japan, in somewhere in the 50s, I think. Maybe even around about that time as well. Canned flesh. Sounded so hideous that just hearing it made me nauseous. I've got food, man, for crying out loud. Some of them named themselves as my grandfather Sohei Sonozaki's superior confessed that those canned goods had been human flesh. In Misawa, a village in which demons lived and ate humans, it was just about to wipe away that cursed stigma The light they had finally started seeing their peaceful lives grew hazy and disappeared. The shocking truth was revealed by the former superior. The stolen provisions from the old Japanese army that had been a huge cornerstone for Enemy's revival had been canned human flesh. Why were there cans like that? Wasn't Sohei just the manager of food warehouses? The superior revealed that Sohei Sonozaki did not have the job of managing the food. In reality, Sohei's job during the war had been to exterminate pestilent mice and to transport the corpses of those with infectious diseases. It had been unfair treatment and all because of the lowliness of his origins. As a result, though, he had returned safely without having been sent to the front lines or being detained. Perhaps that was the only fortunate thing that happened to him. Finally, Sohei was enlisted as an assistant at a military medical institution. There, however, they found something even worse than the lowest-born, depressing customs of Watanagashi village. The research they were carrying out. Oh, is it that one? Could that have been, well, you know, the bacteriological corpse in the old Japanese army or whatever?
Keiichi couldn't have heard of that. What could it be?
Oh, I wonder about that as well. It's like, apparently in Japan, I don't think they like, well, it's a thing in any country really. But when you go over like world wars, obviously a country's going to focus more on the positives of what they did in a war than the negatives. So I don't know, maybe it's not taught that much. Although to be fair as well, they lived in a kind of rural village, so you know, I don't know how they'd end up learning about that anyway. Would they? I mean, it's kind of like an odd school they've got going, really, isn't it? I was pretty sure it was Unit 731. It was a nightmare unit that devoted itself to researching terrifying bacteriological weapons to break the deadlock in the war. They used many innocent people as fodder for horrible human experiments. They methodically observed how many days a new strain would take to kill the victims, how many days it would be when injected, how many days it would be when swallowed. They dissected many people to find that out. Sometimes they wouldn't bother waiting until they were dead and dissect them while they were still alive. They would strap them into centrifuges while still alive and crush them in decompression chambers while still alive. When a live human decompresses, all the holes in their body get pushed outwards, and the intestines get pushed out of the anus like a snake winding out of it and do you mind? I have a feeling I saw something like that on a documentary one time. What? Physically saw how the process works? Well, obviously not. Much to talk about. Is that Keiichi then? Makes me sick if they still hate Higurashi, huh? He said it. Mion agreed with me, giving a faint sad smile. There wasn't much in the way of communication, but for some reason I was happy to have it right now. The unit Sawyer was in did way kind of research for that. They were researching concrete methods for reducing the difficulty of delivering food on a battlefield. The military's designs at the start of the war completely fell apart, and a chronic food shortage broke out all over the battlefield front. I haven't read about the canned meat thing, but I'm starting to see where that's going, and I don't like it. The food shortage led to malnutrition as... Wasn't there another thing I remember reading about on the western side of things? What was it? I think it was Twinkies or something like that. They were like... Or maybe it was something else. Something that originated during the war as like some kind of use. And I think there was another one as well for like dealing with stuff like that. Kind of interesting, that. And as their natural resistance lowered, the soldiers fell to one disease after another. Spirit and morale lowered as well, they wouldn't be able to maintain their forces at this rate. You know, it makes sense as well, like, well, in any war, if it's like a full-on war going on, there's gonna be diseases all over the place, but add to the fact that a lot of, like, quite a bit of their war took place in, like, more tropical areas as well. Apparently that's where the research started. First, it was to find methods of delivering food to battlefields. It was very broad and included things from violent methods like stealing it from citizens to survival methods like how to cook unfamiliar insects and plant life. As they were working out the details, they kept straying off course and going out of control. Till finally they knocked down a door called Taboo. What do you think the easiest source of protein on a battlefield is? What I think is I don't want to know right now. I'm gonna freaking leave it on a cliffhanger of sorts, because I've got food and I'm grossed out by this turn of events in the plot. So, let's save. On page 2. And I shall see you next time, viewers. See you next time.